Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to start our program. His Excellency, Minister Sangin, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon again. On behalf of the Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce, as the chairman of the board, I would like to welcome and thank everyone for attending our symposium on Afghanistan as a hub, the role of information communications and technology. This is our second attempt actually to organize this event. Originally we had planned this in Silicon Valley. For some of you who may recall, we planned to have this in California around late September last year, but unfortunately due to some government shutdown and a few other issues, we were not able to actually have that. So we're delighted to have all of you here in such short notice. And I'm sure we'll have a good program on information, communications, and technology, which is one of the most successful and very important aspect of Afghanistan's future and economy. We at the Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce are excited and optimistic for the future of Afghanistan. We organize numerous events, promote free and open market economy, and also investment in Afghanistan. And through our programs, events, and matchmaking, we try to increase more of investment and create different job opportunities for the people of Afghanistan. And we believe the success or the long-term success of Afghanistan would be the creation of more jobs, investments, and the private success of the private sector. In addition to this symposium, we're planning to have future, this is actually a second in a series of symposiums. The first one we had last year in April in the same hotel, actually, on transportation and logistics. We had a good turnout, and this is our second symposium on information technology, communications and technology, and we're hopefully following it up this year with a third symposium on Afghanistan as a hub on energy and power. We see the location of Afghanistan as a landlocked country as an opportunity in the region for Central Asia and South Central Asia, that region, to play an important role connecting those countries around it, be it in transportation and logistics, information and communication technologies, which in the short past 10, 11 years, Afghanistan has really achieved a lot of success in that area, and also for energy and power. So hopefully by these events, we bring more attention and try to increase awareness and opportunities for these specific areas for Afghanistan. And we have different working groups in our AACC as well, that in addition to our board members, we have many other active members who support these specific working groups in AACC to work toward some kind of agenda for our annual matchmaking conference. By the way, our 10th anniversary annual matchmaking conference is going to be another event we're working on this year. Because of 10th anniversary, we're making it more special by starting a three-phase event starting in Kabul, Afghanistan, hopefully in mid-August, followed by late September, early October in Dubai, and the final event similar to the years in the past in Washington, D.C. around mid-December. So we look forward to having most of you again in our matchmaking conference, being at the 10th anniversary. Hopefully it will be another success. And at this point, I would like to introduce our President of the Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce, Honorable Don Ritter, to continue with the program. Thank you again, everyone, for attending. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Suleiman, and I welcome everybody. It's great to see you here today. This is a very important subject for the future of Afghanistan, and we think the region. But first I want to mention to you perhaps something that's uppermost in all of your minds. The United States lost 1-0 to Germany and therefore is in the round of 16. So big hand for our guys. And it's really good that the game was not projected for the second game of the afternoon, because maybe some of you wouldn't even be here. Suleiman mentioned this year for AACC, This event, which is our first main event in 2014, is, as he said, part of a symposium series of 3 separate symposia based on Afghanistan as regional hub, okay? Obviously, transportation, logistics, and critical infrastructure, the first Afghanistan as hub symposium was the most pressing because, as Suleiman says, Afghanistan is landlocked, but it's in the middle of everything, and you have to cross Afghanistan to get anywhere on land in that part of the world. So we look at that as a plus, and that's why we have brought together these symposia. As Suleiman said, the next one in the fall will be Afghanistan as regional hub, the role of energy and power. All of you can see these interconnections, transportation, energy, and power. ICT is really launched from Afghanistan because why? Because this minister, Amirzai Sangin, His Excellency, has built a private sector-based industrial power with respect to the rest of the region, which is truly significant and exportable. And so that's why we feel Afghanistan as a hub, as a regional hub for information and communications technology, has such potential. I wanted to also reiterate, Suleiman mentioned our 10th anniversary U.S.-Afghanistan Business Matchmaking Conference. Okay. We're around since 2002. But we started the matchmaking event a couple of years after that. The bottom line to this is Kabul in August, Dubai in early October, and Washington, D.C. in December. That will be, the Washington, D.C. event will be a kind of grand finale. But we are going to interweave these 3 events so that we can gain some kind of synergism and make that whole matchmaking idea more a year-round phenomenon rather than explode in the Ronald Reagan, no, I shouldn't use that term, in the Ronald Reagan building once a year for a wonderful event. It's really important that this idea of foreign investment in Afghanistan, partnerships between Afghan and U.S. and other nations' companies becomes a continuous process. And we know that this particular minister, His Excellency, Minister Sangin, is all for this idea. Now, this gentleman is, in our minds, perhaps the most successful minister in the whole panoply of ministerial positions that have been occupied since 2001, since 9/11. And this industry provides a couple of $100 million a year in revenue, and it's sustainable. Why? Because it's private sector. This ministry has bent over backwards to build a private sector market economy around information and communications technology. And that's what makes it so valuable, because so much of Afghanistan has been on a foreign aid life support system in so many other sectors of the economy. And we want to see that economy grow like ICT has grown, and under the leadership of Minister Sangin. He was educated in engineering and telecommunications in London. He worked in Sweden. He helped to evaluate GSM license applications in countries of the former Soviet Union, Central and including Russia, Central and Eastern Europe. He came back to Afghanistan after 9/11 and was the key evaluator on the first GSM license issued in Afghanistan, and became, after 2004, the minister, and has been really, I think, the longest, if I'm not mistaken, the longest running minister in the government. So, and I think many of you are here because you know his list of achievements Again, $2 billion in investment. How much foreign and direct investment? How much? No, $2 billion, not just foreign, of investment in the private sector in Afghanistan. That $2 billion is a big number. The revenues produced to the government are big numbers. And so without further ado, I'd like to present His Excellency, Minister Amirzai Sangin, a good friend of the Afghan-American Chamber of Commerce, and I might add, the people of Afghanistan. Thank you.
Muhtaram Sulaiman Lutfi, Honorable Don Ritter, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon to all of you. First of all, I wish to thank both Don Ritter and Sulaiman Lutfi for taking the trouble organizing this symposium, and it is a great honor for me to be coming, especially for this occasion. I consider this a very important event, and as I go through my presentation, I think you will see what, because I have some important points to make here. Somebody is going to help me. First of all, I think it is very important that this forward and backward. Huh? It's very important that there should be a vision. Without vision, one cannot go anywhere. And in fact, one reason for the success of the telecom sector and the information and communication technology sector is that we have had vision. And what's our vision? We want to transform Afghanistan into the information society. Quite simply, that's our vision, and that's what we are trying to do. Where is the direction for this? There? Yeah. So let's see. Here you see a picture, and as I say, one picture tells 1,000 stories. You see the building, the palace from the 1970s, and how it is looking now, how it was looking in the 2000, and even today it is looking the same. So this just shows you what the war did to Afghanistan. In all areas, this picture explains everything in Afghanistan about infrastructure. Another picture. Here you see a picture from 1962. This is actually Faculty of Medicine. The two girls or students, and the other woman is the professor, the teacher. And this is in 1962. So what do you see on the other picture? The women's situation in 2000. This again tell you the effect of the war on the people. So you saw the infrastructure completely destroyed, and you saw the human capacity and all the people also completely being affected by the war. So just a few things about the war. Millions of people died. Millions of people became refugees. And the people became very poor. The GDP was, they say, 180, possibly much less than this. And then the human capacity was completely lost. Many of our educated classes left the country. I think they are still, if they're alive, they are still in Europe, in US, in Canada, Australia, in the rest of the world. What happened to the people who were left behind? I call them lost generations. Why? Because 2 generations, they grew up in the war without any education, no education. And what happened to the women? Well, you saw the picture, but actually women were not allowed to have education or to work. And they were not even allowed to come out of their houses. And in addition to that, historical and very valuable treasures were looted or destroyed. And the famous example is the Bamyan Buddha statue. You all know about it. Some briefly what has happened in the last 12 years. Well, now the new figure I saw from World Bank, the GDP is about $700. And now we have 8 million children going in school, and 40% of these are girls. Afghanistan has today 17 universities and over 200,000 students going into these universities. This is unbelievable. They say our average life expectancy has increased from 42 to 62. I don't know. I hope it is true. Yes. Well, women are definitely now an important part of the society. They are, our constitution guarantees 68 seats for women in the parliament. And of course, women are back in schools, educations. They are working in the government, in the offices. In my ministry, I have about 400 women working. Certain infrastructure has been reconstructed, such as roads, bridges, etc. And of course, the media sector has had very good development. I will show you some details later. What I would like to say here is that I think all this progress has been made possible with the generous support, both in terms of military and also in terms of financial and economic support from the international community, particularly US. And I think it is quite right for me to thank the US government and the US people on behalf of the Afghan government and the Afghan people for all the support they have given and for the sacrifices in human life they have made for Afghans to live in peace and security. Sorry. Here you see a bus. What are these people doing? They are going from Afghanistan to Pakistan to make phone call. Maybe not all of them, but some of them. This is the true situation. Before 2002, there was no telephone in Afghanistan. So the people, if they want, and you know, millions of people are in Europe, in US, so if they want to call their family member, there was no phone. So they have to travel to Pakistan to make a phone call. And you will hear very long stories. Each family have their own story, how many days they spent, how they traveled, what trouble they went through to reach to Pakistan and make a phone call, a simple phone call. This was the status of ICT in Afghanistan in 2002. What happened? This is moving too fast. Here is some very important points about the Taliban rule in Afghanistan. You see, music was forbidden, TV was forbidden, internet was forbidden, photography was forbidden. And here you see a picture, this actually from 1998, where the story tells, associated with this picture, that Taliban went and raided all the TV shops, and whatever TV shops, whatever TVs they found, they confiscated and destroyed them, as you can see in this picture. So what has happened, what we have done? This is the TV tower. And this only one portion of the TV tower showing the telecom and TV and radio towers. And actually this mountain is very long, and there are hundreds of towers on top of this mountain. So what we have to do back in 2002? In fact, I returned to Afghanistan in April 2002. And that picture I have taken myself. This is taken from Kabul Hotel. At that time it was called Kabul Hotel. And the picture is of Ministry of Communications. I didn't know I will be spending 12 years in this ministry when I took this picture. But that's what happened. I have been in this ministry for 12 years now. 2 years as advisor to the previous minister, in my 10th year as minister in this. And the second thing you see about this picture, the mountain behind the ministry building is actually the same mountain. And you see there is no towers. Only one tower, you cannot see it, but only one tower was there. That was the Kabul TV tower, Afghan TV tower. But you can see a little bit of white. But otherwise there was nothing. There was nothing. So even I thought what to do when the first thing, actually my first assignment in Afghanistan, I was advisor to the minister, and that was to work on the policy, on telecom policy, what to do and how to go about it to bring telecommunication, ICT into Afghanistan. And as Honorable Don Ritter mentioned, I was lucky enough to be abroad for 22 years and gain experience from other countries around the world. And based on that experience, I knew that the only way forward is to enable the environment for private sector investments. So we said, okay, policies, laws, licenses, everything should be geared such that we bring in private sector investments. And that's the only way, because the government has no money. And even if it has, usually governments are not efficient in providing such services to the people quickly. Here you see, in 2002, the first company in Afghanistan, Afghan Wireless, starts mobile services in Afghanistan. These services were launched in April 2002. We issued a new license to Roshan in 2003. And then in 2005 and 2006, we got two new companies, MTN in Etisalat, and then also a government department which was providing telephone services to the people was also converted into a company called Afghan Telecom. So today, Afghanistan has 5 major telecom operators. And in addition to that, there are more than 50 internet service provider companies, and there are hundreds of ICT companies operating in Afghanistan today. One important thing for me as a minister is to make these services reach to the people as quickly as possible. And one way to measure that is the number of towers. And you see how gradually over the years the number of towers, telecom towers in Afghanistan was increasing. And in fact, as a result of this, we have 90% of the population under the coverage of these services, which is quite remarkable. No other country in the region has reached this level of coverage. And you see in the south, the number of spots with coverage is less. And this is showing you the security which is affecting our progress. Had there not been security problems, I think we would have had even better and more progress compared to what we have achieved. Because the colors here represent the coverage of the telecom services from the different companies. This reacting slow. In here you see Afghanistan has a population, nobody knows how much, but we say 27 million. We say 27 million, but actually we don't know. It can be 40 million also, we don't know. But anyhow, but we know that the number of mobiles is 22 million. And in fact, today in Afghanistan, we say there is nobody which doesn't have a mobile phone. I'm not able to find any Afghan in Afghanistan which doesn't have a mobile phone, anywhere in the country. Everybody has a mobile phone, and many people, 1 or 2. And you also see the growth. And as you can see in the last few years, it is reducing because everybody has mobile phones and there is no additional market. Internet was slow. It was slow because why? For 2 reasons. One is the internet price was very high because we were dependent on satellite, and satellite bandwidth was costing something like $4,000 per megabit per month. And when that is the price, the normal people, ordinary people cannot afford it. The second thing was internet was not available. And even today, it is not available to the whole population. But this has been addressed, I will show you later, through the optical fiber. And today, we have actually, to make internet available to the people, we already 2 years ago, we brought in the 3G technology. We issued 3G licenses to the operators. All 5 operators have 3G licenses. And the services are now operational in about 20 provinces. And you can see the number of 3G subscribers is increasing rapidly. Currently, it's 600,000. And the total number of internet users is about 2 million, 2.5 million, somewhere there. Was that the one? Yes. Last time I was in US, I was faced with a question that the Afghan women don't have access to information and communication technology. I told them that's not true, because all the women I know in Afghanistan, they have mobile phones. So in fact, USAID was good enough to take up a survey. They carried out a survey among Afghan population, among the women, and the result, what they found was quite remarkable. And that showed that 80% of the Afghan women actually has access to information communication technology. And you see the 5 women in dark color, that means about 50%. Actually, the exact number is 48%. Women, they have their own phone in their hand. The other 30%, 32%, it is women who have access to a shared mobile phone, together with a husband or father or brother or somebody. So totally 80% of Afghan women actually are using mobile phones. And this is quite a change if you think. Before, the women you saw were locked inside a house. Their voice was not being heard. And now they have the freedom, and their voice is heard beyond the 4 walls of the house, anywhere in the world. This woman picture don't seem to be going away. Okay, the investments, already it was mentioned, over $2 billion. And this is actually the largest foreign direct investment in Afghanistan. There is no such investment in any sector yet, in any other sector yet. Employment is another important matter. And in fact, we also carried a study. I thought it was over 200,000 people employed in this sector, but I'm still not disappointed that the study showed 140,000 people. So these are figures which come out of the latest study sponsored by USAID, initiated by our ministry, which shows, in the study is called Economic Impact of ICT. We will be, actually this study is not yet published, announced officially, but I'm just giving you at least this figure in this study. This is figure from this study, 140,000 people employed. And that's quite something for Afghanistan. It means 140,000 families is getting good life, because these are all well-paid jobs. Yes, when we are talking of Afghanistan as a hub, so I think this is the most relevant slide. About 5 years ago, we started building the optical fiber network in Afghanistan. And today, you can see the green parts are the one which are ready, the blue are under construction. Already about 20 provinces are interconnected via optical fiber. And Afghanistan is also connected to all the neighboring countries except China. And what does it mean? It means that actually now Afghanistan can play a very important role in connecting the sea cables in the Indian Ocean to the TASIM, the Trans-Euro-Asian Information Superhighway, which is now being built in the north. In Afghanistan can become the hub interconnecting these two. And in fact, this optical fiber is now driving the growth in the development of the information and communication technologies. Because previously, our operators were dependent on the microwave systems. But you know, microwave systems have limited capacity. So if now we are moving into broadband, 3G, and soon 4G technologies to the Afghan population, then this is actually going to be the driving force for that. And one other advantage of this is that, in fact, I was participating in many international conferences up to 2 years ago. And when the ITU was talking about broadband to the societies and to all the people, I used to tell them, But how can I give broadband to my people? Because Afghanistan is a landlocked country. In the rate of the internet in my border given by my neighbors is something like $1,000 per MB. So how can we possibly do it? And this was one of the dilemmas for me, because I knew that with that kind of prices, Afghan population cannot have access to internet. But fortunately, something happened in the last 2 years, and that happened in Pakistan. In Pakistan, the optical fiber, which was a monopoly up to that time, became, the market for the optical fiber was opened. And suddenly in Pakistan, there were 3 or 4 operators. And they started coming to us, and each one was offering better and better price. And you know what happened? The initial price of through optical fiber from the first operator was $1,500 per megabit per month. And today it has dropped to $35 per megabit per month. And we have new contracts which are just being signed while I'm talking to you. And when I go back, we will be announcing them. That price is actually dropping below $20 now to $19. So, yeah. So this means that our vision of giving internet, broadband internet to the population becomes quite feasible now. And just at the same time, if you go back to the slide, you know, what is happening in the north? There the prices are still something like $1,000, $800 per megabit in these countries in the north. So, in fact, we are talking to them, and we say, we can offer you so cheap internet. And this is quite now possible, and we hope that these countries in the north will soon take this opportunity and try to use internet coming from the south. In the same way, Afghanistan can also gradually connect to the north cables, and I think this will increase the possibility of countries in the South Asia to access Europe through Afghanistan and through the cables in the north. Currently in Afghanistan, we have elections, as you all know, and the elections are having problems. And what is the serious problem? The problem is that in Afghanistan, we don't know what's the population. We don't know how many people are living in each province. We don't know how many people are eligible to vote. So how do you organize elections? The Election Commission actually issued voting cards, special voting cards. But even they did that without any system of control. That means anybody could come and take a voting card, and he could come the next day and take another voting card. So in fact, one person came to me one day, he said, "Minister, let me see what I can show you." He took out 5 cards from his pocket. 5 cards. And these were all obtained over a period of 1 week. And all obtained from the same office. So it means that it is quite unreliable. It's completely unreliable. And that's why we have today problems, because we don't know how many people voted. Was there so many people eligible to vote? And this has become now a problem for our election. And we have said 5 years ago when we started this project that we can actually solve this problem. And our solution is to develop a state-of-the-art based on advanced technology in electronic ID card. And we met with lots of resistance. But I'm happy to say that this system is now in place. It is actually, you can see the card itself. This is a real card with both sides. And the main features are that the registration is going to take place online. It means that once somebody is registered, and he is registered, let's say, in anywhere in Afghanistan, and now he thinks maybe he can go to another place and change his ID, but as soon as he put his finger on the machine, the central database will answer that he is already registered and he cannot register again. So in that way, we can avoid double or triple or multiple registrations. And In addition to that, the biometrics include fingerprints and iris scans, and that means the system is quite security proven, and the card will be reliable. And then the fourth important thing is the central database, because using this system, now we get a central database, statistics on the people, who they are, what is their age, how many women, how many men, where they are, and they don't need to take a separate voting card because they can use this card when they are voting. Not only that, I don't know what's going to happen in Afghanistan, but if I am there to advise, my vision for the next election is to make the next election completely electronic. People don't have to go to voting center. They can vote from their mobile phones and computers. Can you imagine? This is quite possible. This is quite possible. If there is a political will, I think it can be done. We can do it. What was that? Something went. Our constitution actually gives freedom of speech and freedom for the press. And our government, with His Excellency President Hamid Karzai, actually one of the greatest achievements of this 12 years is the fantastic development in the media sector. And this is because the government has been really giving the press that freedom, which is quite unique for a country like Afghanistan. I have been in many of our neighboring countries, and I can tell you Afghanistan seems to be much, much ahead compared to Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Iran, Pakistan. These are the 5 neighbors. None of them, in their long years of development, have reached this stage where we are today in 10 years. See, for the TVs, we have 35 TVs in Kabul. Unbelievable, 35 TVs. And 54 TVs, local TVs. These are other TVs which are in different provinces, in Mazar-e-Sharif, in Herat, Kandahar. Radios, 62 radios in Kabul, and 160 across the country, local radios. And then, of course, the social media. One thing why this number is not more is the limitation in the frequency. Otherwise, the demand for TV and radio establishment is still, we have a long list of people who have applied to establish TVs and radios. But of course, as you know, in FM, there is only 62 frequencies, so you cannot give more. And in TV also there is 41 frequencies, but a few are used for some other special purposes, so this is actually the practical limit. One thing we have done now is actually we took a step forward, and that is to transition from the analog TV system to digital TV system. And this is, again, Afghanistan is leading in this. We went through the process of consultation with the current TV operators, and we also had a tender process, and the license for the digital TV network is already issued. And I think the infrastructure in Kabul is already in place. And I am told when I go back to Afghanistan, we will actually inaugurate digital TV broadcasting in Kabul city. And that is, the standard will be DVB T2. And then in about 3 to 4 months, this transmission will expand to 6 major Afghan cities. And then it is planned that in the next 2 to 3 years, it should reach across the whole of our country. And here I want to tell you one important thing, why we did this. What's the importance of this? You see the 35 TVs in Kabul? If they want to become national providers and have coverage across the country, I calculated that it would require something like $1 billion. Because you see, each TV, if they want to be in across the country, they have to invest about $40 million in a network. The TV tower and the transmitting equipment in each city. And if you multiply that by 35, you see it becomes over $1 billion. And these TV companies don't have that kind of money. So what happens? There is no balance in the coverage of TVs in Afghanistan. Kabul has 35 TVs. We have actually many provinces where I went, there was not even one TV there. So then this idea came to me, how do we solve this problem? And that is to go to digital transmission. Then you need to build only one tower in each city. You don't need to invest in 40 towers for each TV in each city, just one tower. And then the infrastructure is shared, the cost become much less. So I think now it is quite feasible that all Afghan TV channels which are there in Kabul with good programs, good content, they can be available across the country, soon across the country. This is the major advantage of digital TV compared to analog TV. Unbelievable, Afghanistan has its own satellite called Afghan-Sat-1. We started on this project about 2 years ago. Somebody told me it can be done. Then I was very happy. And soon after that, I was in Geneva. I met the ITU people there. And they looked at our situation. And what happened? That day, I was one of the saddest people on earth. Why? Because they told me Afghanistan's frequencies are polluted from other satellites in that region, and you cannot have your own satellite. And that's true. Why? You know, the procedure for satellites says that anytime a satellite comes up, a letter is sent from ITU to all the countries affected by that. And if the country within 3 months don't send objection, it is automatically accepted as approved. In Afghanistan being at war, even up to that day when I met the people in ITU, we never received this letter. This letter seems to be going from the ITU to our embassy in Geneva, and then it was stuck there. So the Afghan government never reacted to all the other satellites' frequency applications. So then they went ahead, and what happened? Our frequency got polluted, and we couldn't have a satellite of our own. But I was not going to give up. I said, no, still I'm going to try. And in fact, we circulated a tender, and with God's help, we have a satellite in orbit. And you may ask, how is that possible? Eutelsat seems to have had a satellite in orbit from 2008. And this satellite was damaged. One of the solar panel was damaged, so it was not running on full capacity. It was running on partial capacity. And they came to us and said, we are willing to give this satellite to you. And it is already coordinated for 48 degrees east, which is good enough for us. It is coordinated. All the frequencies are clean, and you can start using it immediately. So it was just like a present from God. We got, we got a satellite, and actually it is up in orbit. Already TV broadcasting is taking place. TV broadcasting direct to home is taking place from the satellite. We have 10 channels running on this. In my office, I'm very happy watching these TV channels every day. And we hope that soon all the Afghan TV channels will be up on the satellite. And then the Afghan people can benefit. Because usually everything I do in my ministry, the focus is on the people. Anything we do, the final focus is on the people. So what is the advantage of this for the people? Up to now, the Afghan TV companies, one was on this satellite, one was on that satellite, one was on that satellite. So if the Afghan people want to receive the Afghan TV channels, they have to have 4 or 5 TV dishes on their roof. Huh? But now, with this solution, they only need one dish, a very small dish. Actually, it shows that even a 30-centimeter dish will work. So it's quite incredible. So the final benefit is for the people that they will be able to receive all the Afghan TV channels from one dish. you may say all this is a good story, but I think you must also take into consideration the challenges. It's not easy. It's not America. It's not Europe. It's not the environment like that that we are working on. It's quite a challenging environment. Lots of challenges. I mentioned just 4. Can you imagine all this ICT infrastructure running without what you call the public energy, electricity? There is no electricity in Afghanistan. So we started all this infrastructure. All the 5,000 towers, they are running actually on diesel generators. And can you imagine the challenge to keep all these 5,000 towers running with diesel generator, 24 hours, 365 days, and the diesel should be there with all the security issues, carrying the diesel from the shop up to the mountaintop and keep this station going. This is unbelievable, unbelievable. In US, Europe, in many other countries, you build a station, you just lock the door and you go away. But in Afghanistan, that's not the situation. Under each tower, there are 4, 8, or nowadays security is not so good, so maybe even 20 people guarding that tower. And do you think it is safe with even 20 guards? No. In the last 3-4 years, we have lost more than 300 towers. They've been burned, they've been destroyed, they've been attacked, and that's still ongoing. Every week, we lose 1 or 2 towers here and there. In the last one, also a very important one, which I mentioned in the beginning, is the capacity. When you don't have engineers, qualified marketing people, financial people, how do you run these kind of telecommunication operations? Here, I want to say that I am very proud of the Afghan youth. Why? In the beginning, the telecom operators had hundreds of foreigners which came to Afghanistan to run the networks. Today, each company has very, very few foreign people. All these networks, the 5,000 towers across the country, all of them, they are 24-hour maintained, they are installed, operated, and run by Afghans. چی شده؟ تکمیزی. و دیگیش است. غلط کنم. خب. Just quickly, I think a few reasons for the success. If you are agreeing that it is a success, one is the vision. I think the other thing is to make sure that you have the right policies, which we have tried to base our policies on best global practices. The most important is quick action. I mean, this government, in even this last few weeks, some ministries came with their policies to the cabinet, This is the end of our government, and they are talking about policies now. But we had the policies up there in 2002. One important thing is about corruption. I think one thing which is affecting the investments in Afghanistan is in corruption. We have tried to keep this sector clean and transparent, all the actions to be accountable and to keep corruption out from the sector. And I hope that those who are engaged in this sector will testify to that. Partnership, it's very important. Private sector cannot really succeed without a real partnership. And that's what I can say is that we have tried to be partner, and we call it 4 Ps. That's the people, the public, private, people partnership, because people are also important to be participating in this. Another thing is the continuity. When I was doing the policy, I didn't know that I will also be the implementer of that policy in 2002. But I have been there for 12 years, and I think that's also a contributing factor. And finally, the authority. I have been in many countries. I think ministers have limited authority, bureaucracy is there. But in Afghanistan, I must say that I'm really thankful to our president, because one thing I can tell you is that he has given me, at least, and I think this is true for all the other ministers also, complete freedom to decide and to make decisions, which we consider to be of benefit to our population. And of course, the teamwork, the work, no success comes with a single person. You have to build a team. In our ministries, success is due to being a team. Me, my deputy ministers, my directors, and my employees, we all move in the same direction. We have cases in our government where the minister is going right, the deputy minister is going left, and the director is going straight ahead, and somebody is moving in the other direction. These situations are there. Okay. I think I talked too much. My time was only 20 minutes, but now I've talked 1 hour. Okay. just a few things about the future. I think the work is not finished. We have started, and we have to continue. So what's the future? Infrastructure, not much. OFC has to expand, reach to everywhere. 3G will have to expand. 4G will have to come soon. Digital TV will reach, and I think the Afghan-Sat will also have its utilization. That is electronic government. That's very important. I think this is where we can start now, because the conditions are now becoming right, because unless technology or the internet is available to the population at reasonable price, you cannot really go for electronic government. But we think now is the right conditions, and there is lots of things we can do there, and I don't want to talk too much about all this in details. Electronic services, yeah, this is very important. In fact, in Afghanistan, I have counted that we are using the ICT for about 6 to 7 things, like talk, SMS, email, web browsing, and a few other things, 2, 3 things. But I was in Estonia last year, and you know, there they had 3,000 electronic services. 3,000. Maybe that's too much. We don't want to have 3,000, but at least, at least maybe 100 or something. And we have to find out what they are and which one are relative for our country. This one is very important. I think this is the one for which I want your attention, all of your attention. I think the previous two are also areas where companies here in US can contribute, but this one is very important. You know, how is the employment in our country? How the people are doing? The statistics is that 40% people are unemployed. And also, as I said, 8 million students are going in school, in 200,000 in universities. So the question is, 8 million means, 40% means 5 million are already without work. And there is 8 million more students which are on the way to graduate. And so the question is what they are going to do in Afghanistan. I think that is going to be the most serious challenge for our new government, for our future governments. So my thought is, let us see if we can do something using the ICT. And what is that? I'm thinking that up to now, Afghanistan is mostly in ICT consumer. It is using ICT services as a consumer. Is there something we can do to change this, to go from a consumer society into ICT producer society? I think this is the key. And yes, I'm thinking about the model of India, where India has software development companies. India has business processing outsourcing companies, and they have call centers. And I believe that the conditions for doing this in Afghanistan are now right. Connectivity is there, optical fiber is there. All these 8 million students graduated from the schools are there, young people, girls and boys, speaking good English, and also familiar with computer. So I think, in my opinion, this is one area where I think today in this forum, some people may start thinking about this. I think because the customers could be here in US, so the US partner could bring in the customers. And the Afghan representatives of the businessmen are also here. They can be their local partner. And I'm thinking this is one sector where a lot can be done. When I was in India 10 years ago, they told me that their software export, these 3 things, it was $4 billion. And they told me that in 4 years, they were going to increase it to $40 billion. $40 billion, I said, it's not possible. But 2 weeks ago, I looked in the internet. Today, it is $80 billion. Huh? So if India can do $80 billion of this business, let us we at least try to do $1 billion in Afghanistan. Huh? Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.